say about this offer, as she absolutely slammed it. This is what Breanna Stewart had to say, man. Time is of the essence. Stewart added that she doesn't know if there's a drop dead date, at which point the league will no longer be able to start the season on time if there's no CBA in place. However, she made it clear that everyone knows they're running out of time and need to get a deal done soon. I think that both sides are very aware that this has gone on way longer than it needed to, Stewart said, but hopefully we can really start hearing.
Breanna Stewart, vice president of the WNBA, made it clear that the league's latest CBA offer doesn't fix the main issue, revenue sharing. From the players' point of view, that's the real priority. Team owners added a few major upgrades to the proposal. They offered better housing support, improved facilities, and raised the salary cap to $5.65 million for 2026. On paper, those changes look meaningful. But Stewart's message was simple. Those perks are not enough. The players want a direct share of league revenue. Without that, everything else feels secondary. This isn't just tough talk. It's a basic disagreement about how the league should operate going forward. The players believe that as the business grows, their share should grow with it. With training camp less than 3 months away, time is running short. If neither side changes its position soon, the standoff could turn into a much bigger problem.
Man, oh man, it appears these WNBA players, they are nuts. They are absolutely insane, and they are continuing to try to play hardball with these WNBA owners in regards to the latest CBA offer made by the owners. Breanna Stewart absolutely slapped around that last offer. Denied. We have to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, and hype the video for me as well. It will be greatly appreciated. Now, we continue to follow
The timing here is important. NBA owners sent their newest proposal on Friday. That came more than 6 weeks after they received the players' last offer. 6 weeks is a long gap in the middle of serious negotiations. It doesn't signal progress. It suggests both sides are standing firm. By Sunday, the players held an emergency executive committee call to review the proposal. But according to Breanna Stewart, the first focus wasn't breaking down the details. It was making sure everyone agreed on what they were actually fighting for. That says a lot. When a group has to pause and realign on its goals, it often means there are differences inside the room. The union has presented a united front since December, but there are signs that not everyone feels the same way. Some international players, like Jade Melbourne, have openly said they can't afford a lockout. Rookie Baylor Kelly has admitted she's worried about missing paychecks. For many players, this isn't about leverage. It's about paying bills. Not everyone has major endorsement deals or extra contracts in other leagues. Many middle-tier players rely heavily on their WNBA salaries. A work stoppage would hit them the hardest. At the same time, some of the union's most visible leaders, including Stewart, Nneka Ogwumike, and Nafisa Collier, have other income streams through leagues like Athletes Unlimited or Unrivaled. That creates tension. When the players with financial safety nets help guide a hardline strategy, those without backup options may feel exposed. As the clock keeps ticking toward training camp, the pressure isn't just between owners and players. It may also be building within the union itself.
Large contingent of WNBA players is a key point. There's a large contingent of WNBA players playing in Athletes Unlimited, not Unrivaled, not Project B. They're not making a bunch of money right now playing basketball in Athletes Unlimited. This is just to get some conditioning, get some 5-on-5 in, and things of that nature. This is not something where you are going to fatten your pockets. So ultimately, the players in this league, these are those middle of the pack players who seem to be getting left out in thought by the veterans, the Nneka Ogwumikes, the Breanna Stewarts, the Nafisa Colliers, who are all compromised but also can afford a lockout. These players, majority of these players in Athletes Unlimited cannot afford a...
What makes that Athletes Unlimited meeting so important is who it involved. Nneka Ogwumike, the WNBA president, flew to Nashville to meet with players competing there. Not the stars playing in Unrivaled, where top names can earn six figures in just 8 weeks. She went to see the players grinding in Athletes Unlimited, where the pay is far more modest. These are the players who often get overlooked in big negotiations. They are not landing premium off-season contracts. They are not making huge money overseas. For many of them, the WNBA season is their main source of income. If the season is delayed or canceled, they feel it immediately. According to reports, the mood in that meeting was tense. There was real concern about what a lockout could mean. Players expressed fear and frustration. Some questioned whether the union's top leaders truly understand how serious the risk is for everyone else. The gap is clear. If you're Breanna Stewart, with major endorsement deals and strong overseas options, missing part of the season is difficult but manageable. You have other income streams to lean on. But if you are a second-year player still fighting to secure your place on a roster, it is a different story. Losing a season could damage your career, your financial stability at the same time. That is the pressure building beneath the surface. This is no longer just a debate about revenue sharing. It is also about how much risk different players can afford to take.
And a bunch of Australian players who said they could not afford a WNBA lockout, and that's not what they wanted. I been knew y'all wasn't on the same page. Here it says, the WNBA's proposal, the league's first response to the players' latest offer, which came more than 6 weeks ago, didn't move much money-wise, Stewart said, but there were some minimum standard requirements that did come into play. That was important, Stewart added, because that means that the league heard us on things that matter to us. And it also means that the league and the owners have been willing to compromise. We are still waiting to hear what you players have compromised on. We haven't heard it yet. Notably, the league's latest proposal offered concessions on player housing and facility standards. First-year players and players on minimum salary will be provided a one-bedroom apartment for the first 3 years of the CBA.
Now let's focus on what the owners actually offered. The proposal includes housing support. First-year and minimum salary players would get one-bedroom apartments for the first 3 years. Developmental players would receive studio apartments. That's a notable shift, especially since the league had considered cutting housing benefits. The salary cap would rise to $5.65 million in 2026. Max salaries would start around $1.3 million and could grow to nearly $2 million by the end of the deal. More players per team could qualify for max contracts. The minimum salary would jump to $230,000, and the average salary would start at about $530,000. For comparison, the current max is around $240,000, and the minimum is about $60,000. These increases are major, but the main issue remains. The players want 30% of league revenue. The owners are offering about 15%, even with higher salaries and benefits included. That gap is still the biggest obstacle.
However, the league's response did not address the gap between the sides on revenue sharing, though it did raise the salary cap to $5.65 million in 2026. A source familiar with the negotiation told CBS Sports how that rise would affect specific salaries is unclear. The WNBA's proposal in early December offered a $5 million salary cap and a max salary of about $1.3 million in the first year of the deal. A source close to the situation told CBS Sports that over the course of the proposed deal, the maximum salary will raise to almost $2 million, and that multiple players on each team will be eligible for the max salary. The minimum salary in this deal will start at $230,000. The average will start at $530,000.
This is the core disagreement behind the entire standoff. Owners are saying they're willing to pay players much more, but they don't want to lock that pay into a fixed share of revenue. Their argument is simple. The league is not consistently profitable. Players see it differently. They don't want promises based on accounting. They want a structure similar to the NBA, where players receive about 50% of basketball-related income. The challenge is that the WNBA and NBA are not in the same financial position. For most of its history, the WNBA has operated at a loss. Reports suggest that the 2024 season, boosted heavily by Caitlin Clark's impact on ratings and attendance, was the first time the league came close to breaking even. Even now, several teams still lose money each year. The league's model relies in part on NBA support and owners who are willing to absorb losses while building the brand. From that view, owners argue it's risky to promise 30% of revenue when profits are uncertain. Instead, they're offering guaranteed salary increases. Real money players would receive whether the league makes money or not. But Stewart and union leadership aren't satisfied with that approach. They believe tying pay directly to revenue forces transparency and ensures players benefit automatically as the league grows. At its heart, this isn't just about salary numbers. It's about control, trust, and how the future growth of the league should be shared.
Things that are non-negotiables. What are the non-negotiables? For them, it has been revenue sharing. They want 30% of revenue share. The WNBA is refusing to move on that. This is what you have to pay attention to in this entire thing. Right here. Right there. Revenue sharing. The owners have compromised on many things. We haven't seen anything the players have compromised on. The one thing the owners have stayed steady on is revenue sharing. We cannot go up to 30%. We absolutely will not. In fact, we can't go above this 15, but we are giving everyone more money. We are going to continue to pay for you guys' housing, which we didn't want to do. We're going to give on a lot of things. Breanna Stewart absolutely slammed that offer and basically said, look, all of that, the housing, all of the little things, yeah, that's cool. I don't care about keychains and trinkets. We care about revenue share. And therefore, this deal.
This has gone on way longer than it needed to. That's Breanna Stewart's own assessment of the talks, and she has a point about the timeline. The current CBA expires in October. Free agency is set to open in January 2026. Training camps usually begin in late April. It's now February 2025, and both sides are still far apart on the main financial structure of the deal. Stewart says there isn't a clear deadline, yet where starting the season on time becomes impossible. But in pro sports, everyone understands the calendar. If there's no agreement by late March, teams can't properly organize training camp. If there's no deal by early April, free agency likely gets pushed back. By mid-April, delays or canceled games become very real possibilities. Stewart also made something else clear. She said she hopes both sides can truly hear each other, especially on what the players consider non-negotiables. In simple terms, that means revenue sharing is the line they refuse to cross. Housing, facilities, and higher minimum standards matter. But the key demand is a fixed percentage of league revenue. From the owner's side, there's been movement. They agreed to keep providing housing after initially resisting. They raised the salary cap in a major way. Minimum salaries would increase nearly 4 times over. More players could qualify for max deals. Facility standards would improve. The obvious question then becomes, where have the players adjusted their position? On the central issue, 30% revenue sharing, they haven't moved. They've accepted added benefits, but on the main economic structure, their stance remains the same. And that's why the gap still feels just as wide as when this started.
On the same page, but we found out that that was a lie and there is a fracture, which I already knew about because I put out videos in December and November with Deja Kelly saying she didn't want to.
This is where the situation gets uncomfortable. Breanna Stewart has a strong financial deal with Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league she co-founded with Nafisa Collier. Nneka Agwamike, the WNBA president, also plays in Unrivaled. Collier isn't just a player there, she's an owner. These are key figures leading a tough negotiating strategy that could lead to a WNBA lockout. If the WNBA season were delayed or canceled, alternative leagues like Unrivaled and Athletes Unlimited would instantly become more important. For players who have contracts or ownership stakes in those leagues, that shift could soften the blow. That doesn't mean anyone is trying to damage the WNBA on purpose. But the optics raise fair questions. Players without outside deals, especially younger or lower-paid players, may wonder whether the strategy truly reflects their needs. Someone like Baylor Kelly, who relies heavily on her WNBA salary, faces far more risk in a lockout than a star with multiple income streams. Owners have quietly pointed this out. They argue they're negotiating with union leaders who have financial ties outside the WNBA, which complicates trust. That doesn't make the players' demands invalid, but it does create a real debate about whose interests are being prioritized, the full player base or a smaller group with other options. The latest offer from owners included major salary increases and improved conditions. Union leadership rejected it because it did not include the revenue percentage they want. And here's the broader reality. The WNBA is not the NBA. It does not generate billions in revenue. It does not have decades of steady profits. Media rights and sponsorship numbers are not comparable. Pushing for an NBA-style revenue split in a league with very different financial foundations isn't a simple demand. It's the central gamble in this entire standoff. Calling it unrealistic may sound harsh, but that's how some see it. The owners are offering guaranteed money, not projections, not promises tied to complex accounting. A $230,000 minimum salary would completely change life for players currently earning around $60,000. A max salary starting at $1.3 million and rising toward $2 million would put top WNBA players in a far stronger financial position compared to other women's pro leagues. That's real money. But union leadership has decided it isn't enough. Their focus remains fixed on securing a revenue percentage, and they appear willing to risk a lockout to get it. That risk isn't equal for everyone. Many players cannot afford to miss paychecks. For them, a delayed season means immediate financial stress, and they would be carrying that burden in pursuit of a principle that may or may not work within the league's current financial limits. The next few weeks are critical. If players refuse any deal without 30% revenue sharing, and owners refuse to move much past 15%, a work stoppage becomes likely. Training camps could be delayed. The season opener could shift. The players already worried about lost income would feel it first. Stewart is correct that this process has dragged on. But the delay isn't only about ownership resistance. It's also about a firm line from union leadership on an issue where compromise has not yet appeared. Owners have adjusted on housing, salaries, facilities, and working conditions. On revenue sharing, the players have not shifted, which leads to the key question: what are players willing to trade to secure that percentage? Because real negotiation only works when both sides give something up. So far, only one side has been willing to compromise. If Breanna Stewart and the WNBA leadership truly see 30% revenue sharing as non-negotiable, they owe it to players like Baylor Kelly to explain why risking missed paychecks and a delayed season is worth it. They need to clarify why guaranteed salary increases, hundreds of thousands of dollars per player, aren't enough. They need to justify why the proposed financial structure, which would make WNBA players some of the highest paid women's team athletes globally, isn't sufficient. From the outside, it looks like the players leading these talks have alternative income sources that protect them from the fallout of a lockout. Meanwhile, their maximalist approach puts the financial security of a majority of union members at risk. That's not leadership, it's self-interest wrapped in the language of solidarity. Time is running out. Training camp is less than 3 months away, and the gap between the sides isn't shrinking. If anything, it's widening. One side keeps compromising, and the other keeps saying it's not enough. Eventually, something has to give. Will it be the owner's patience, the players' demands, or the 2025 WNBA season itself? What do you think? Are the players right to stand firm on revenue sharing, or are they overplaying their hand and putting the very players they represent in jeopardy? Share your take in the comments. This situation is reaching a breaking point, and the people who matter most, the fans, need to have their say.